Once you get into the conversation, each time she starts to.
It just dissolves.
Like this
All
table.
right.
Yo.
Yo, yo. All right,
Like
one,
this tables, bro.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Welcome to the Bread Slice. My name is Alex, and I'm your host.
And I am Eddie. I am your co-host.
And my name is Anthony, and I'm also your other co-host.
This is the Bread Slice, the podcast where we talk about culture, everyday life, and faith. And today we're talking about what everybody's looking for in life. And I'm talking about, what am I talking about, guys?
Love.
Yeah, love.
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 All you need is love. Love is all you need.
Love and why we have faith in God.
Yes.
Yes. And, I think Anthony was telling me earlier that why we have faith out of love and not out of fear. Because I feel like in Christianity, that's what a lot of people think it is. It's a fear-based faith, or fear because in life there's only two main feelings that motivate our actions, and one is fear, and another one is love.
Love.
And I feel like in culture we tend to make our decisions based on fear most of the time.
Yep.
If I don't get this job, I'm gonna be homeless. If I quit my job, I'm gonna be homeless.
Yeah. Or like if I stay in this toxic relationship, is better than having nobody.
Right. If
Yeah.
I dump my current partner, then who am I gonna end up with?
Yeah. Or
Yeah,
who's
yeah.
gonna love me? Because I'm flawed. Yes. Or
If I wear this shirt, they're gonna judge me because I wore it 2 days ago.
yeah. I mean, there's people that have like their closet.
That was not directed at you, by the way, Anthony, at all. I was.
I mean, I was gonna say he said that and looked over at me and
because
narrowed
you
his
looked
eyes.
over
I was
because
like,
I knew that I as I was saying it, I remember oh wait, he wore the same shirt. I mean, maybe you have many different ones that look the same. I don't know, but
I do have two of them. Yes.
As I was gonna say, a lot of people have closets that it's like 20 of the same shirts,
Yep.
20 of the same pants.
Right.
Yep.
as opposed to making decisions out of love, it's like I'm gonna eat this salad instead of this bacon cheeseburger.
Or the Snickers bar.
Right, because I want to treat my body with respect. I want to, that's out of love. Like it's almost like if your decisions are based on sacrifices, then that's doing things out of love.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to doing things out of fear, you're more like trying to accommodate your ego.
Yeah. Also, I feel like I think Joe Rogan said this, and by me quoting Joe Rogan, I don't mean that I endorse everything that guy says. This is just a quote that he says because people take things out of context.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer: do not support everything that Joe Rogan says, even though he's got a very interesting podcast. Like I said, he doesn't represent my beliefs, but he said, when you choose to eat something that is healthy, and then you start doing it as a discipline, it's you realize that I'm going to eat this that is healthy instead of messing up my body for some mouth pleasure.
Yeah.
Like reaching for that bag of candy. Like, I understand that a lot of people cope with emotions different, but it's not healthy when you're eating a whole bag of gummy bears.
Yep.
And I see some foods on Instagram reels that people mix so many sugary things, so like might as well just grab the bag of sugar and start putting handfuls of sugar into your mouth. But yes, this is not a nutrition podcast.
Also, making a decision out of love is like going to bed early.
Yeah. Even though I'm a night owl, I like to stay up
Right.
for no reason.
It kind of sucks going to bed early, especially if the night's litty. People are having fun, and you're like, dang, I got to get up early tomorrow. I'm going to go to bed early so that I can wake up, well rested.
Refreshed. and ready for the day.
You know, a lot of the times too, that habit can come out of, like for me, it came out of like high school, like always having to wake up so early, and so like when I graduated, I was, you know, abusing the power of being able to wake up late and not have to worry about being late for school or anything. So sometimes people can form a habit out of that just because it's something
Rebellion.
they'd rather do than
Yeah.
what they were doing.
And it gets out of control.
Yep.
Yeah, like or sometimes, you know, when we talked about it in our other episode, it's like, oh, I work so much and want to have some drinks,
Right.
and then one night turns into 2 nights, into 3 nights, into 4 nights.
Yep.
I remember I used to be like super into fitness for a while, and then I started working in professional kitchens and became friends with everybody, and most of the cooks would go out 3 times a week. And we go out and party hard because everybody did that, and then the next day, even though you're hungover, you're still there showing up to work again. Even though most of the time we couldn't stand each other, we kind of just made a toxic clique that would go out and just get blackout drunk. That's when I fell off my fitness, and I started thinking, well, if I stop lifting, if I stop running, my body's gonna remain the same, right? Wrong. Especially when you go out like that, and then after getting blackout drunk, you go and get a giant sandwich from the grocery store, and then eat it, and pass out on your bed, and finding ketchup packets in your bed, and then the next day, yes, waking up with shame and regret.
You know, that is a popular saying that I go by sometimes too. Is like, if you want it to work out, you got to exercise it. You can't get to a point and then expect to stay there.
Yep.
Like you
You gotta
gotta.
keep it.
It's almost harder to maintain what you got than to get more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Facts.
All right. Well, today's topic, I feel like if we're gonna speak about love and why we got where we got, I think it's important to share our testimony and how we got to where we are right now. Anybody want to begin?
I suppose I'll start.
All right.
You guys ever been like at a workplace and everybody kind of just starts talking about like what they hate, or like how some people are so annoying, or like customers are this or customers are that,
Yep. Oh yeah.
and then you know that it's wrong to do that, but then all of a sudden you're just taking part of it and you're just joining in, like, yeah, and then these people are like this, and then some other people are like, you just start to elaborate on what they're talking about.
Yep.
And sometimes it feels like, most of the time actually, like if it would feel wrong, or it feels wrong to like bring up God, you know, like at the workplace,
Mm-hmm.
because it's almost like even the people that would want to talk about it with you, like, they still feel like, oh, we shouldn't, you know, we shouldn't do that. Like, how about we question God instead of
Yeah.
just talking about how great He is?
Mm-hmm.
And that's more like an acceptable thing than to actually give praise.
To be cynical.
Right.
Yep.
So anyway, like before I came into my faith and started following Jesus Christ, I was, you know, very self-indulgent, and I had a job that I was a manager at. I was managing a store. I had worked there for 3 years. And then I quit out of I had an anxiety attack once, and I think it was like 6 months later that I actually decided to quit. And then I always knew that Jesus was like the truth. I always knew that there was a lot of truth behind that, but I was kind of like, almost like looking at a building and knowing that it's expensive, right? Like, that building must have cost a lot to build. Cool. I want to move on with my day now. So that's kind of how I looked at Jesus at first. Like I remember seeing a meme on Facebook that's like, if you're ashamed to bring me up in front of your friends, then you will not be welcome. I will not recognize you in front of my Father. And it was a picture on Facebook. So it's like, if you share this Jesus, if you're not ashamed to believe in Jesus. And I remember sharing that and feeling like, yeah, that's right. I believe in Jesus. Almost like a prideful thing. Like, you don't believe in Jesus, you're going to hell. You know,
like a brag.
Yeah, like something to be prideful about. Then I was invited to a Bible study group by Alex, my brother. And at first I was like, well, I don't want to commit to anything because what if I can't make it? Then you guys are going to get mad at me, blah, blah, blah. Just all the excuses just kind of boiled up on top of my head. And then you were letting me know that the pastor was cool. Because back then I used to think that, Christianity was like this judgmental, very firm, very disciplinary thing. Then I met the pastor, and then I realized, like, wow, there's no way a pastor can be this, like, laid back and, non-judgmental.
Like a regular person.
Right. There's no way a pastor can be like a regular person. There's just no way. Then we read John, which was Jesus' cousin, and he was a Baptist. And he was basically the guy that was anointed by God to open up the way for Jesus to do his work. And we started reading about what Jesus was like and the words that came out of his mouth in that specific book, the book of John. And I started realizing, like, it speaks to you in a way that it's not going to speak to everybody. It's almost like you're listening to the same text, but everybody's interpreting it differently. And that's when I came to realize that Bible study was such a crucial part for me to become closer to God, because I realized that it's not just one perspective necessarily, but it is one purpose. So it's like it's the same purpose that can be looked at with different perspectives. And then I realized that it's about bringing people closer together. And it's really about joy and being able to really not just fabricate joy, but more like experiencing it at its fullest capacity. Because we would eat afterwards from Bible study, and then I downloaded an app on my phone, which turned out to be
Spyware. No, I'm just kidding.
No. Turned out it was like a series that Pastor Mike, the pastor from the Bible study, recommended. It's called The Chosen. And it's basically a series about how people reacted to Jesus when he was here. And the second episode that I saw, I cried. And I was like, what?
I cried on the first episode.
I was like, what?
No.
I'm talking like crying. I'm not talking like a tear up. No, I was like it was the whole thing. So I'm thinking to myself, like, something so powerful, like only few things that can be that powerful to make you sob. And it was a part where Jesus called Mary to be one of his disciples, because back in the series she was going by Lilith, and she was like this alcoholic, gambling prostitute.
Yeah.
Like, she was just like the worst, and everybody knew her as Lilith, right? And she got in a fight with some people at the bar that night, and then she rushed. Actually, Jesus came to her at the bar.
Yeah. I think that was the first episode, though.
Yeah, that is the first episode.
Yeah.
Yes, I sit corrected.
Yeah.
The bartender gave her a drink. Like, who knows which drink it was, right? 7th, 8th, who knows?
She tried to kill herself earlier, though.
She
You're-
did. She was gonna jump off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I mean,
she
but
got
I'm
distracted
just
by the dove.
right.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm just like talking about the bar scene.
Yeah.
She gets a drink, and then Jesus is like, he just pops up right there, and then he takes the drink from her, and like kind of like slides it away from her, and then she's like, "What are you doing?" And then Jesus is like, "This is not for you." And then she gets super mad. She like storms out the door, and then Jesus goes after her, and then he goes, "Mary."
Mary of Magdalene. Yeah.
Yeah, Mary of Magdalene, like, which is like her mom. And she just stops. And then she looks, and it's Jesus right there. And then Jesus just approaches her and then grabs her by the head. And she just starts tearing up completely. And so did I. Because it was just such an impactful, like, meaningful moment where it just lets you know that, like, that's God in the flesh.
Yeah.
Because who else can know you by what your mom calls you?
By your real name.
By your actual real name.
Yeah, because I think part of the powerful, the power in that scene is that Jesus calls her Mary,
Mm-hmm.
and she goes, "Well, how do you know that?" It's like, nobody calls me that. It's like, I know because you're mine.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Jesus
right.
said, "You are mine," and then she just
Starts bawling.
like, you understand that, like, it hits you so hard when you're like, Jesus knows me by my name. And, it is written that once we get to heaven, he's going to give us our actual name. Like, we have our name here on earth. My name is Alex on earth. Your name is Anthony. Your name is Eddie. But then when we get to heaven, he's going to give us a real name. And I think it does a really good job of portraying how deeply and how well God, the creator and designer, knows us. Like, he designed you. He knows what's best for you.
There's nothing that is not covered, right? There's not a single thing of in and of your life that is not covered, that is not known by God. And when you come in the presence of Jesus, you realize that, like, dang, this guy knows me. Not only does he know me, he loves me.
Yep.
And when you realize that, like, somebody that knows you, like, I'm talking everything wrong you've done, everything right you've done, every doubt you've had, every dirty thought you've had, like, everything, he knows it. There is nothing that he has not known. And then you realize how, like, dirty and sinful you are, and how, like, just nasty as, like I said, as a being you can be, and yet he loves you so much that there is no way anything else on this earth can give you the same sensation when you feel that. It almost makes you question it, like, why do you love me so much? It's like, do you know the thoughts that I've had? Like, do you know what I've done? And the answer is yes. And I still love the heck out of you. He'll love the hell out of you.
Quite literally. Yes.
I think I saw that on a shirt, and I'm like, that's clever.
But who's next?
I'll go next. I think my walk with Christ has been, they say faith is the only thing that makes sense backwards, because you look back and you're like, oh, okay. And I feel like throughout my entire, since a child and into my teenage years, probably until my early 20s, like probably until I was 21, I was pretty indifferent to God. Like, some people believe this, some people didn't. At some point, my dad was not a believer, and I heard him say some things with my uncles, saying that, oh, well, Christianity is just, a bunch of fairy tales, is a bunch of crap. And I remember hearing that as a kid, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to repeat what the adults say. Yeah, I just, I don't believe in that. That's silly, that's stupid. And I remember up until I was 20, I remember I was working at Chipotle at the time, and there was a couple from Central America. I forgot where they were from, but they were Christian. and I would kind of make fun of them for that. And I remember saying like the guy, I forgot their names now, but the guy, the husband, he would say things like, "Oh, we're married. We are one flesh. We are, it's something that is forever. It's something that is God designed." And I'd be like, oh, "This guy's full of crap." Like, we know that if you could cheat on your wife, and that's very true, right? We all could do that if lust goes unchecked, and if we are not aware of our own desires. But anyways, to that point, I consider myself an atheist. Like back when I was working there, and because I saw just a couple of videos that those videos are like, oh, we're so smart because we take things out of context, and we like to confuse people. That's how one more of those people that fall for that kind of thing. So there I am thinking that I'm so smart and so well educated that Christianity is just a bunch of crap for ignorant people, not knowing that I was the ignorant one.
Mm-hmm.
But while I was working at Chipotle, I became friends with this one guy, and let's just call him Frank, right? And me and Frank would hang out all the time, and we used to smoke weed together. And he started telling me that he was, in his past, I think he was 29. At the time that I met him, I was 21. And he shared with me, through all these nights that we would drink and smoke together, that he's been a drug addict, and then he had every drug known to man, and he had a lot of close calls with his life, and like almost losing his life to addiction. And the only reason why he was there was because of this guy called Jesus Christ. So at first I was like, okay, come on, whatever, I don't care. You're giving me weed, and that's that's all I'm here for. I listen to your stories.
Dang.
But then but then I became more and more interested on who Jesus was. So I'm like, okay, well, tell me more about this Jesus guy. And I remember, conversation after conversation, and he would just quote the Bible, and I don't remember exactly the words that we spoke at the time. But then I remember one night while I was really high, it just hit me. It was like, because I always had this question, okay, what's the meaning of life? Like, why are we here? Like, are we here just to love? Are we here to just reproduce? Like, what's the meaning of life? And then one time when it just hit me, like, the meaning of life is to follow Christ, to be here for Christ. Christ put us here for a reason, is to follow him. That is the meaning of life. And then that just hit me. And then, a few years more went back, and we stopped talking. Like, I continued to party. Like, I call myself a Christian, but I didn't know who God was. It's like, I can say that, I know my uncle, Jim, and he, sometimes he gives me money, but he lives in a mansion over in a mountain, and I barely know the guy. So it was kind of like that. And it wasn't until, I think back in 2020, I think the beginning, right before the pandemic hit, I remember it was actually 2019. And then a friend invited me to church, an old friend. We didn't talk for a while, and then we were celebrating my birthday. I think it was my 30th birthday. And my friend was like, hey, you want to come to the church? And then I was like, okay, well, yeah, I've been looking for a church.
It would have been your 31st.
Something like that. I don't know. But at the time, I was in a really weird state of mind, because I remember throughout my life, I've always been like, okay, I believe in God, whatever. But then at some point in my life, I started praying, God, make me the person you created me to be. I did not know what I was asking for. I just, I did not know the extent of my request. But God said, okay. So at the time I was working at a factory. I was making plastic bags. And I remember it just one time I started just breaking down reality. And I went just like a deep rabbit hole, because I would just be in a machine for like 12 hours, and I just let your mind wander. And I get myself a panic attack. but I thought that I was having a stroke. That's what the panic came from. And then ever since that, since probably 2015 to 2019, I had high anxiety. I didn't feel like myself. At sometimes I would be afraid of being alone just because I thought that I had the power to hurt myself, and I was terrified of being alone, and I just I was kind of lost. I'm like, is this it? Like, is this how life is gonna be? And then one time I remember waking up in the morning, thinking, oh great, another day of anxiety. Like, here we go. And then at the time I was living in an apartment with my girlfriend at the time. She's now my wife. And then our relationship we weren't good. We just tolerated each other. But I remember getting out of my room and seeing the sunlight coming through one window, and then thinking of God. When seeing the light, like, God came to my mind. And then I started thinking, God, why don't you help me? Like, why am I going through this? That was the first time that I talked to God in years. And then in my heart, I kind of understood. He said, well, you don't talk to me. And then I remember from that moment, I was like, God, help me. I don't know how to do this, but help me. Just, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to pray. Just help me. And slowly, slowly things started changing, started getting better until I started going to the core, and then I heard the pastor. Pastor Mike is a great pastor. I think he's got a gift for reaching especially younger people. And I remember thinking, like, because I've been to many churches too, and nothing felt like home. And I remember, like, listening to him. I was like, oh, I want to know more. Like, this is very helpful. And then I remember, like, wow, like, I never looked at the Word of God like some sort of therapy. Like, wow, like, the Word of God, like, started healing me. Like, I feel like I've been thirsty for so many years, and I finally get a drink of water. Finally get a little bit of water in my mouth. I'm like, what is this? But then at the same time, your flesh is going to fight you all the way through. And I was thinking, well, this could also be crap. This could also be just, a show. And then I remember at the church, they have this thing called a communication card. So you can fill it up. And then there's options like, what would you like to do next? Do you want us to pray for you? Are you interested in a group? Do you want to know more about Jesus? And I always checked, I want to know more about Jesus. And then I put my number down, and then the pastors reached out to me, and that's how I became more and more involved. And I guess, like, God was calling me home, like, be like, okay, well, you wanna follow my will. This is how it's going to be. And I feel like God had to, we have to go through that desert. We have to go through at least in my experience and how God reeled me in, is what I have to know what it's like to walk without him, just to know how good it is to walk with him. And to this day, I feel like he's healed me completely. And even though we still, I think we're always going to struggle with some other things in our life because we are in flesh. The fact that we have him is just enough for everything in life, to go through everything. And I'm also the kind of person that if I'm feeling just slightly off, I feel like I have cancer or something. Like, my mind always just goes to weird places. And
making a storm in a glass of water.
Yes. And I heard this guy in this Christian conference saying that he used to be exactly the same way. And that's why I started paying more attention to him, because, like, oh, wow, this guy is describing exactly how I feel. He said, every time I was feeling a little bit off and I was really afraid for my life. And then he's like, I'm just going to let you know on the truth. Everything that you have right now, your youth, your wealth, your relationships, everything is going to be taken away from you at some point in your life. And not to be a doomsday kind of guy or anything like that, and not to be a pessimist, But the only thing that is not going to be taken away from you is your relationship with Christ. So get working on that.
Yep.
Read your Bible and stuff like that. And now I am grateful. It's honestly baffling to be aware of the fact that Jesus Christ has called me to be this person. And it's just mind blowing. And it's a privilege to be sitting here with people in the same boat, because we just have no idea how awful, how just demoralizing and full of awfulness out there it is, and how God with his grace is just pouring all his grace on us, and just when we choose him and we choose to love, and we understand the love that he has for us. Because if we do not understand the love that he has for us, we do not understand love. We love because he loved us first. Before that, we do not understand love. We like to call things that aren't love, like lust or obsession, or sometimes narcissism, self-love.
Or like hustling or grinding.
Yeah, the love of the hustle.
Yeah.
They say, people say God is love. Yes, God is love, but love is not God.
Right.
Because people say, oh no, yeah, as long as it's love, or the love of this, the love of that, you can have love for cocaine. That's.
Wait, that's wrong? No, okay. All right, you gonna go next, Anthony?
Yeah. So, I've always been aware of God, right?
Right.
Like my family, especially my dad, is I guess you would say like a hardcore Christian.
Okay.
Right? Like he's also been aware of it. He's known it his whole life. However, even though I was aware of God and Jesus my whole life, like the Garden of Eden, like all that, I've known that, but I haven't understood it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I known it's a thing, but I didn't understand why.
Mm-hmm.
And I went a very long time without understanding why. As a matter of fact, I didn't really start to break it down myself. I didn't start to question why I believed in God or Jesus up until about, I would say, 1.5 2 years ago.
And just for context, how old are you right now?
I am 19. Yeah.
19.
Yes.
I am 34, and Eddie?
25. No, I'm 30.
Anyways, continue.
But when I started questioning these things myself, I started looking back on past events, and I started realizing why this had to happen. Right? Like at the time, it would be like, oh, this is so inconvenient. Like, why does this happen to me? And I had the feeling like it was only me, right? Because everybody on the outside, they look perfect, and then I think about myself, I'm like, oh, I got all these problems. And I started looking back on that, and now I understand why things went the way they did. Why some things had to go south before things got better, right? Because it always gets worse before it gets better.
Facts.
And one time that always sticks out when we bring up reasoning for faith in God is there was one night I was in 5th grade, and me and my buddy we had a sleepover. we had an air mattress in my basement with a TV that was plugged into a not very safe wall, and we had an air mattress, and we lost the air pump, so we brought a leaf blower.
Gotta improvise.
Yeah, so we put the leaf blower, like, obviously it's not fitting in the air mattress, so we're like trying to cup our hands around it, wrap it up to fill it up, and we get it filled up like halfway, and then we just gave up. And we set the leaf blower off, like behind the air mattress, but like in the middle of the room, right? And We were playing video games, whatever fifth graders do. That's what we did. We just played video games. And I went upstairs to go to the bathroom, and when I came back downstairs, or I was on my way back downstairs, I went to open the basement door and it was locked. And I was like, oh, haha, very funny, right? Like,
Yeah.
he locked me out, whatever. And then he came running around the corner upstairs and through the living room back to the basement door. And I thought he was just trying to scare me, right? I was just being logical.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, dude, like something made a noise downstairs. And I'm like, dude, this house was built back in the 60s. Like, it's going to make noise. Like the foundation or
Yeah.
the wind or whatever. Just anything I could think of to make an excuse for that. And I unlocked the basement door and we went back downstairs. And I walked around, I looked around, like I didn't see anything. I wasn't expecting to, I wasn't really looking. I was just looking to make him feel better. And he said that it happened when he shut the lights off, because he said he was going to shut the lights off and then try to scare me when I came back down.
Backfired.
Yeah. And I'm still oblivious to the situation. I'm like, wow, now he's trying to double scare me, right? Explaining that he's going to scare me and then still try to get me.
You're like, okay, it's working.
But I'm like, all right, you know what?
Well, did he look like actually frightened?
Yes, but we were in 5th grade and I was not the smartest, I would say. But he said it only happened when he turned the lights off. So I'm like, okay, whatever, we'll turn the lights off. And I shut off the basement light, and the only light we had was the TV screen.
Yeah.
And the TV screen was like facing the direction of where the noise came from. And that's where the leaf blower was as well. It was like, I don't know, our basement, it was like the staircase was in the middle, and then the basement was just built around the staircase. It was kind of weird. But the side we were on, it was facing the leaf blower and a big wall of boxes, the washer dryer, whatever. And we shut the basement light off, and I went over to where the TV was so I could see things. And it was quiet. And about 10 seconds went by, and I looked at him and I'm like, I told you, like nothing's weird, right? Like, it's fine. And I saw something move out of the corner of my eye. And I glanced over at it, and the leaf blower that we had in the middle of the floor, it started pivoting on itself. Like, it started, like, turning. And I looked at him, I'm like, the floor is uneven? I don't know. I was still trying to think logically because I just couldn't understand what I was seeing. And this wall of cardboard boxes that has been there for like 3 years, it just fell over on top of the leaf blower, and we got super scared.
I believe that.
Wow.
We got so I'm pretty sure we only touched like 2 or 3 stairs going back up. Like,
Mom!
we were playing leapfrog getting upstairs.
Yeah.
But we got upstairs to my bedroom, and we closed the door, locked it, turned every single light on that we could, and my natural instinct after I locked the door to my room was to pray to God, even though I never understood what it means to pray. And I just simply asked God to keep me safe. What's funny?
Scared the bejesus out of you with that one, man. Damn.
Yeah, no, it was scary. And
so would you say you just prayed to God out of fear at that point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, at that point, my brain had registered, like, there's no way he could have set this up in the amount of time I was gone. Like, this was another, like, force or entity that was doing this.
Because you feel like sometimes when there's pranks, like, there's some sort of fear there, but spiritual fear is just a different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was scared because I knew this wasn't him anymore, like, pulling my leg. And so I just asked God to keep me safe. And about 3 seconds after I asked for that, there was like all that weight that was like compressing me in that fear just lifted up. And we both looked at each other at like the same time. We're like, "Did you feel that? Like, what was that? Like, I feel better now."
Yeah. And this your, how old are you?
I'm 19.
19.
And I saw this when I was in 5th grade. It was
Wow.
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Around, like,
it was
12. No, it's like 10, 11.
something like that.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
it
so-
was,
so you guys
yeah,
are
10,
not-
11.
Are not like little kids anymore.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
we're starting to develop the part of the brain where we can think for ourselves,
Yeah.
you know, and since that day I started listening to what people had to say about God. You know, not just Christianity, cuz you know, God's not Christian. He's not Jewish, he's not Arabic or Hindu or whatever.
Right.
God is God.
Yeah.
Whatever that means to you, that's who God is. And since that day, I've been a big follower with Christ and a big believer in both Christ and God. And I think that is an experience that I needed, because I was not headed towards a very bright future at that point in my life. You know, I was doing stuff that other people were doing because I was the new kid at the school. I just wanted to fit in. Like, I didn't really care if I liked it or not. And, you know, I'd just been carrying that knowledge. I remember that experience quite often. And I think it's a good thing to keep remembering it, because that's the first time I felt, I guess you could
Helpless?
say, like a blessing even.
Oh.
But yeah, that's the first time where I actually couldn't come up with an excuse on why this happened, right? And I think it's a great thing that it happened, because it's brought me to the point I'm at now, and I really do enjoy the mental state I have compared to what it used to be. I have definitely improved, even just in the last 2 months, just because I keep following, I keep studying. And the more I learn about Christ and God, it's like the more I want to be close to them, because I start realizing like how great, you know, this really is. Like how great it is, like how everything you can see, everything you feel was created. It was never just there. You know, not even man-made stuff, like not like these microphones or headphones, but like trees, grass, water. It's like there was a time like before this where it was nothing, and something had to create it. And since I started following this mindset, since I've started willingly putting my faith into Christ and God, I feel great. Whenever I talk to God, I feel like he listens right away, but he will proceed with action if I ask for help at the very exact time that it needs to. I'm a very strong believer in getting answers from God. There has never been a time where I felt like he's ignored me. So that's pretty much why I start believing in him now, because I've seen the things that people talk about. Because it's easy to talk about things instead of doing them.
Right.
Or it's easy to believe something you've never seen, or not believe something you've never seen.
Right.
But when you experience something that is so close and so close to detail about what someone else has talked about, it's terrifying. It is, because, well, at least for me, for the first time, because I didn't believe that. And then God's like, hey, I'm still here. This is why I'm here. And I've also learned to fear God and not the devil. Because if you are a great follower and you want to get closer to God, then the devil's out of the question. There's no reason to think about him.
He's got no power.
Yeah, that's what fuels, you know, Satan to keep going, because he wants everybody. So it's a great thing that I've experienced spiritual things and paranormal things. And that's pretty much why I started believing in the existence of the Lord and his son Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. It's a good one.
All right, just we start landing here, landing the plane here, and just since the episode today is love, I feel like we're all here to because we love who Christ is, and because we understand the love that he's given us, and the love that he represents, and I think about John when it starts in John, when it says at the beginning it was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. I heard somebody says that you can replace each word with the word Jesus and still make sense. In the beginning there was Jesus, and Jesus was with God, and Jesus was God. He was there from the beginning. And the Trinity is a whole other thing that we can talk about in another episode. But for today, let's finish here with some quotes about love in the Bible. And here's one of the most, probably the most famous quote in the Bible.
It's gonna make me cry.
John 3:16. Everybody knows that one. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. But God, that is John 3:16. Romans 5:8. But God demonstrated his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, that Christ died for us. And also the one that you hear at almost every wedding: love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, I can't read tonight. It is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. That is love today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening today. I'm your host, Alex.
And I am your co-host, Eddie.
And I am your other co-host, Anthony.
And that is the Bread Slice, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Yo.